And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Heart-Based Business Show. I am so excited that you're here with us today. And it's such an honor that you took the time to be with us. And I hope you're really going to enjoy this show because I have such a special person here for you. And you know, I have to share with you, we had a lot of technical difficulties this morning, and I bet all of you are experiencing the same thing. And a lot of it is because of all the overload from Facebook and YouTube. And we're airing both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time right now. And I'm very, very fortunate to have this gentleman with us today. And I feel, I don't know what else to say besides fortunate or grateful. You know, we're all stuck at home, and everybody I'm talking to is on the internet constantly. So you can imagine what an overload all of this is creating. And sometimes we get to have our Facebook on and we get to be on that show, and sometimes we don't. I just never know what's going to happen. But one thing I want to tell you that's so important is always to remember, just roll with it. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine in the long run. And even if we'd had to start 5 minutes late, we would have been just fine. And as I was saying, that when you have the technical difficulties, just hang with it. You'll get it resolved, and don't panic, no matter what it is that you're doing. So let's bring this wonderful gentleman on. It's Jim Britt. He was with Shark Tank, and he's got some fabulous information for you today with regard to how wealthy people bring all of that money into their lives. What are the habits that they do, and how do they go about creating this wealth? So let's bring Jim on right now. Jim, welcome to the show. And hey, I'm really happy you're with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you. We had 19 seconds to spare there with the technical difficulty.
Yeah. That was all we had. You know, that's why I say you got to roll with it and just say, okay, well, we'll get it all figured out somehow, right?
Right. Always do.
Yeah. And I think that's the way most of business is. Don't you agree? We're just trying things. We try them on. And if we find out they don't work, we modify it. But every mistake is a good mistake because we learn something.
Yeah. And, you know, I always say that, you know, don't try to control things that's beyond your control. So sometimes it's just beyond your control. I've had some tech things happen this week that I'm going, okay, I'll wait till tomorrow. You know, so
exactly. And sometimes you just want to give up, right? And go, forget it. You know, my mom used to do a lot of sewing. And when it didn't work out for her, she'd throw it on the floor and jump up and down on it. And that's how I felt this morning. So, Jim, talk to us about what it is that you're doing.
Well, I do a lot of different things. My main focus is speaking, and I do some coaching as well. Well, I used to do some speaking. Right now, I don't. I've had quite a few events that got postponed or canceled because of what's going on in the world today. But that's my main focus. And speaking with entrepreneurs is one topic that I cover, and I am an entrepreneur. I've launched many businesses over the last 42 years, and but still, my main focus has always been in the speaking area. And the other topic that I work with is personal empowerment in any area of somebody's life, whether it be financial or business or personally related or, you know, whatever it might be, health. Because what I found is that sometimes we get stuck and we don't know why we're stuck. You know, we have these habit patterns that, well, we have positive habit patterns that become second nature to us. We all know about those, you know, from walking to talking to driving a car. You don't have to relearn it every time you get in the car to drive. So we have those habit patterns that would be difficult to live our lives without it. But on the other side, we have negative habit patterns that have become second nature, and we're kind of trapped in those. And we're trying to get out, but we don't know what we're trying to get out of. So that's why a lot of people get stuck. I call it it's an addictive behavior, addictive cycle that we get into. And every time we try to get out of that, whether it be about, losing weight, having a better relationship, making money, building a business, every time we try to get out of it and fail, it strengthens that habit pattern. And so what I focus on is how to discover what that habit pattern is and how to break it in any area of life. And it's not that hard once you understand it, but it's very difficult if you don't. It's like a fellow I was talking to a while back. He said, I haven't been able to pay my bills on time or fully for 25 years. And I
Wow.
that's what I said. I said, wow. I said, what are you going to do about that? And he said, well, I'm kind of thinking about cutting my overhead. And I said, well, nothing wrong with cutting your overhead. But I said, in about 60 to 90 days, you'll be back not being able to pay your bills on time again. He said, well, why would you say that? I said, because you're addicted to it. I said, it's your addictive behavior. And I said, obviously, you've been trying to do it for 25 years and you haven't been able to break out of it. So I said, until somebody guides you through it or you discover it for yourself, what you're trapped in, I said, you'll live out the rest of your life being trapped in the same way. And,
now, when
that's true, and it's sad, but it's true.
So when you do guide people through that habit, whatever it is, how do you go about doing that? Do you do meditation? Do you just listen to whatever it is they're saying, or how do you go about that? How would someone figure that out for themselves, even?
Well, it's a lot about self-observation, but there's other things that back that up. Once you've decided what it is you want to have in your life, everything that you do from that point forward regarding that is going to either move you toward it or away from it. And so many people live in what I call a gray world. We don't live in a gray world. We live in a black and white world. And it's either moving you toward what you want or away from what you want. Every action you take is moving you one way or the other. There's no gray in between. Now you may hit the gray thing occasionally. It's like I'm very into health and eating organic foods and taking care of myself and exercising every day. But occasionally I'll miss a day of exercise. Well, is that taking me where I want to go or away from where I want to go? Well, it's that gray thing, but the reality is it's not taking me where I want to go. Or we go out to eat and we don't know what's in our food when we eat it. In a restaurant. It's probably full of sugar and things to make it taste really, really good. And you have a glass of wine and there's probably some chemicals in that too. So, occasionally you get off of that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that the more observant you become of what you want to accomplish and what actions you're taking that's moving you toward that, you'll be a lot more effective. And eventually you can break free of things if you understand that you're trapped and what you're trapped in. But there's a few points that we could talk about that what I call it's six traits that all wealthy people have in common. And the first one is, if you want to change anything in your life, if you want to become wealthy, for example, the question is, do you desire that? That's number one. Do you desire change in your life? And I think if you ask 1,000 people on the street corner in any city, USA, well, not right now, probably couldn't find too many people out there right now, but on a crowded street corner or anywhere, whether it be Wall Street or some off street in Los Angeles, and ask 1,000 people, would you like to make more money? You'd probably get 1,000 yeses. But the question is, why do people still stay stuck? Like the gentleman I was referring to there, why do they stay stuck and not move forward if they have a desire to change? I had no doubt that he had a desire to change because he'd been attempting it for years, for 25 years. So it takes more than that. You've got to go to the next step. And the next trait that you have to have is decision making. You've got to make a decision to do whatever it takes to accomplish the decision that you've set out to accomplish. And so many people they set their goals, they do their vision boards, they have their affirmations, they do all of those things, but they forget the foundation of what makes it all work. You know, goal setting is just, or vision boards without a firm decision backing it up is just it's a lot of mental gymnastics. It's not going to take you anywhere. So you've got to have that decision. And I learned that early on when I was about 22 years old. And I got introduced to my first business, and I had no business experience. I had no money. I had no business background, no education, dropped out of high school in the 10th grade and didn't know where I was going to go in my life. Worked in a factory on an assembly line, which was my dream job after pumping gas for about a year and a half. And so I got introduced to this direct selling company, and I had to invest $4,000. Well, I had $9. That's all I had. And nobody I knew had any more money than I did. So I was determined to get involved in that business. So I went to 23 banks and loan companies to fill out applications to borrow the money. And 22 of them turned me down. And number 23, a high interest rate, might have been Mafia, I don't know, but it was a really high interest rate loan company. But I didn't care because I knew I was going to be successful in that business. I knew it. And I'd made a decision. Not only was I going to be successful, but I was going to get rich doing it. That was my determination. And I never forget the fellow that night. It was a direct selling company. And the fellow that night, he said, your job is talking to people. He's talking to the audience. He said, your job is talking to people. And he said, if you talk a little, you'll earn a little. And if you talk a lot, you'll earn a lot. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, how much is a little? He said, 1 a day. I said, how much is a lot? He said, 10 a day. And I said, okay, I'll do the 10 because I want to get rich. And I didn't know what rich was. I was making about $360 a month. That was it. So $1,000 a month would have been rich to me. But I heard somebody saying that they were making $10,000 a month in that business. And I thought, I can do that if he can do it. I've got as much talent as he does. So long story short, I went out over the next 12 months. My target was 10, talking to 10 people every single day. And I didn't miss a day talking to 10 strangers every single day. And at the end of that first year, I had talked to over 3,650 people. And I got 3,650 people that told me no. But you know what? I wouldn't give up. I would not give up. There was a notice on my front door from the sheriff saying, you got to be out in 5 days. My home had been foreclosed. Both of my vehicles were gone. All of my furniture had been repoed. And so it'd be easy to move. I had a wife and a child, and I didn't know what to do next. And somebody knocked on my door, and it was somebody from the company, and they said, we understand that you're a really hard worker, but you're not making any money. And I said, you got that right. So he came in, long story, he came in, sat with me for 2 hours and taught me what I was doing wrong and what I needed to be doing to make my business work. And the next month, first of all, I think a series of miracles took place because in 5 days I had to be on the street. But in 5 days, I had a car to drive. I had $300 a week coming in. I had a 3-bedroom furnished apartment furnished for me. I had a business that I entered into in addition to my other business that I had started. But my direct selling business the next month earned me $2,600. Plus I had all of those other benefits. And so everything I needed was handed to me. Not handed to me, it wasn't given to me. It was because I wouldn't give up and I wouldn't change my decision. And as a result of that, through both of those opportunities, my net worth was just under $1 million over the next 12 months. So that's how fast things can change if you make a firm decision. It may not change quickly. It may take a year. It may take a month. It may take 2 years. I don't know. It just depends on what it is you want to accomplish. So my point is, if you want to be wealthy, the first step is to make a decision to be wealthy, whatever that means to you, whether it's having that $10,000 a month residual that I was kind of working toward, or owning a business and making millions of dollars, or becoming a multi-millionaire, whatever it is for you, that's up to you, because it's different for everybody. But without backing that up with a decision, all the opportunities in the world mean nothing. So if you take,
Jim, let me just interrupt you for a second,
Sure.
because we have a question from Shirlene Lovegrove from our audience. Would you mind if I share that with you?
No.
She's saying, hello, Jim. How did you come to the decision to become rich? That it wasn't just a whim, but a real goal.
How did I become? Well, I arrived at the decision probably for two basic reasons: desperation and inspiration. So I was desperate to find something that worked for me, that was an opportunity outside that factory I was working in. So I really wanted something, but I didn't know what else I could do. I had no experience at all. So I was desperate in that way to make more money, to live a better lifestyle. But I was also inspired, because inspired me to see something that I could do as a high school dropout, that I could move forward with and become financially independent. That was my dream. So I think those are the two reasons, was inspiration and desperation.
So the big question would be, what can you do that inspires you, right? What could you do that you're really excited about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think everybody's got what I would call as a hidden wealth secret, that they have inside. And I don't know what that is, but if you search and through your mind and your passions and your heart, and discover what it is that really moves you. And everybody's got a talent. Mm-hmm. I attended a seminar one time. A friend of mine, it's a 3-day event. So over 3 days, she guarantees you that you will make money during those 3 days. And if not, you get your money back. And she charges like a couple $1,000s. Well, there were like 300 people in there. And I'm there really observing. I wanted to see what she was doing. And I thought, there's no way that these 300 people are going to make money at this event. Well, all 300 did. They all had an idea. They all had something that they could make money doing. So the proof is that we all have that inside us. We just don't bring it out. We don't look at it. We get caught up in day-to-day activities. We get caught up in what I would call job mentality of and there's nothing wrong with having a job if that's what you love. If it's not, then everything's wrong with it. So I think, but some people like that. They like that form of security. But I think everybody's got a talent that they could market, and I could give you multiple examples of that, or things that they go after that doesn't work, and they change the way they see it and change the way they market it, and all of a sudden it takes off and they make millions of dollars off of it.
Right. If they just stick with it like you did when you got all those no's. I think that one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have is that they're so afraid of no. They're so afraid that no is nothing but a rejection. So when you were moving through that, how did you overcome those no's and the feeling that you were being really massively rejected?
Maybe it was I was naive and didn't know any better. I was young, but I don't know. I mean, when I look back at it, there's multiple times when I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done, and then a couple hours later, I'm going, no, I just can't give up. I've got to do this until it works. I can't give up. And so people ask me now, how do you handle rejection? I said, well, I did that about 42 years ago. So I don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
I never even think about it. I mean, it's if somebody says no to something, it just means that they didn't want what you have. That's
right.
it wasn't of value to them. Like one of my sons at 10 years old, he decided he was going to have a cookie business. He was going to sell cookies to the neighbors. And we lived in a neighborhood at the time. And I said, well, how are you going to market those? And he said, well, I'm going to go take orders and collect the money and then go bake the cookies and deliver the cookies. Now, in my mind, I'm going, nobody's going to give this kid money without the cookies. But I didn't say anything to him. I said, I'll let him experience the rejection. Well, about 2 hours later, I smell cookies cooking in the oven. And this kid's making I think his first 3 days, he made $189 selling cookies. And he developed a whole cookie business out of it through the neighborhood, almost throughout the whole small town that we lived in, and was making money hand over fist at 10, 12 years old, for several years. And one day we were leaving town and he said, he said, I've got one cookie I need to deliver, Dad. Would you get me in the car and take me down there real quick? I don't have time to ride the bicycle back and forth before we leave. So I drive down, it's like 3 miles away. And I said, Warren, I said, you came all the way down here to sell one cookie? And he said, no. And he said, I stopped at those other houses too. And he said, I sold some here and there. And so I thought, well, I wonder how he handled rejection. So I said, if you went to a house and knocked on the door and they didn't buy a cookie, I said, what did you think? He said, I just thought they didn't want a cookie, and I go to the next door. So that's what he did. Rejection,
and that's how it really is.
Just keep going. Okay, thanks. And just move on. And then as we're leaving town, this kid's got money coming out of every pocket. And he goes, I don't know what the big deal is about money. He said, everybody seems to not have enough of it. My friends, my friends' parents, he says, seems to me that if you want to make a lot of money, find something that somebody wants and needs and sell it to them. That's it.
Exactly.
So, pretty good philosophy.
Yes. And that's what I teach all the entrepreneurs that I work with. I tell them, don't just try and create a program based on something that you experienced and then try and look for the needle in the haystack to find somebody to buy it. Find out what your people want before you develop the program, and then it's really, really easy to sell.
Yeah, my that first person that met with me, I call him a mentor or maybe a savior. He said, he asked me, he said, how do you know if you have a good prospect? And I said, well, if they buy from you. And he said, no. He said, you got to know if they're a good prospect before they'll buy from you. And I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, there's 3 destinations you have to arrive at in order to understand you have a good prospect, no matter what kind of business you're in. He said, number 1, do they have a problem or a pain? Number 2, do they want to solve it? And number 3, can you solve it? He said, if any one of those 3 is missing, you don't have a prospect. So he said, and if you're marketing something that you're not in front of the prospect, you got to get that in your mind. Who are you marketing to? Do a good portion of these people have a pain? Some of them will want to solve it, some won't. If you're marketing on the internet, you can't understand every single person, but you can understand if you hit a certain target market. You could understand that if you're marketing a weight loss product, that 67% of the adult population in the US are 15 pounds or more overweight. So you got 67% chance of reaching somebody that could use your product, but then how many of them really want to make a change? Mm-hmm. How many want a solution? Well, maybe half of those. So maybe that's enough to market to. But you got to look at those things, whether you're in front of somebody or marketing on a mass scale.
Jim, you have given us so much great information in such a short period of time. I wish we had another hour. Tell us really quickly what it is you've been doing, because you've got a lot of #1 international bestsellers right now. So I'm sure everybody would like to hear about that.
Yeah, we have 3 in a row of #1 Amazon
Woohoo!
international bestsellers. Yeah. No, we have I'm doing a book series with Kevin Harrington. That was one of the stars on the TV show Shark Tank. He's no longer on there. He did the first 189 episodes, I believe. That Kevin and I are friends, and we developed this program for entrepreneurs in really any category. Because a conversation that we had one day that about 90% of entrepreneurs will fail. And it doesn't really have to be that way. If they avoid the mistakes that I made, that Kevin made in the beginning, we could double that to from 10% success to 20% success. And if we can help them to become a key person of influence in their field of business, we can double that 20% to 40%, because that's so important in today's world, because everybody lives on social media and the internet, and that's where everybody's marketing. So there's so much noise out there. What sets you apart from everybody else out there? What makes you that key person of influence? Right. So what we've done is we created a book series and a whole program that goes around that book series that is a PR, marketing, branding, and a way to generate leads for any type of entrepreneur. And so the book series is called Cracking the Rich Code. And we just have a different volume number for each one and a different color scheme a little bit to set them apart. But all 3 of them have hit #1 international bestseller, and we fully expect book 4, which we're filling up now with new entrepreneurs, I'm sure it'll do the same thing. We can't guarantee that, but I think we've got the system down to be able to do that. But it's just a great book series. We have 20 co-authors in each book. They write about pretty much anything they want. They get the 3,000 word chapter, a picture, a bio, and their contact info in that book. So it's a way to generate leads back to them. Then we have a whole membership site that's really a lead generation site for any type of entrepreneur. And we just launched that. We're already getting tons of members on there, but we haven't fully announced it yet. But it's a pretty cool thing that generates leads for each of our entrepreneurs within that book. And an entrepreneur can be anybody. It could be a coach, a speaker, brick and mortar. Could be an online marketer. Could be radio host, whatever. We got all kinds. We've got just a great community of people so far.
Awesome, Jim. You've just been really fabulous. I want to thank you. And hopefully you'll come back. Will you come back again? Because I know you have so much more to share that we didn't even have time. This half hour went so fast. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Just hang on. So everyone, I just want to thank you for joining us today. This has been so exciting that we've been able to spend time with Jim Britt. He is such an amazing man, and I hope you will reach out to him at jimbritt@jimbritt.com. And I'm going to put this up here for you so that you'll have it. There it is, so that you can find him in the future. And I have the little book up in the corner to show you. I participated with Jim, and it is an amazing book. I'm really, really excited about it. And we've got an endorsement from Tony Robbins. I mean, what more could you ask than Kevin Harrington, Jim Britt, and Tony Robbins? There's nothing better than that. So if you haven't had a chance to get Cracking the Rich Code, the first 3 of them are out. I'm in the 3rd one. I felt so honored to be a part of that. And get it and see what other business owners are saying that can help you avoid making the mistakes that all of us have made. And then one last thing, I just want to invite you to join the authors and speakers Visibility Playground. And that is the Facebook group that we work together on. I don't mean Jim, I mean, the entrepreneurs and I work together on. We do all kinds of wonderful things. And hopefully I'm going to get Jim to join too, because he certainly needs to bring his authors into this group because there's so much credibility. So everybody, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, for being here with us. And don't forget that every week at 9:30 Pacific time on Wednesdays, we are here with you. So come, bring your questions and your comments, and I just can't wait to hear from you. See you next week, everyone.